You walk through the door and the call has just ended. No one saw your face. You haven't said anything yet. You set your keys down, slowly, a little too carefully, and before you've even exhaled fully, your dog is already there, right at your feet, head tilted, eyes fixed on yours with that quiet, searching look that stops you mid-thought. You didn't cry, you didn't speak, you barely moved. And yet somehow, your dog already knows. That moment, and you've had it probably more than once, is not a coincidence. It's not a quirk of routine or a lucky guess. What your dog just did is something that researchers are only beginning to fully understand. And when you learn what's actually happening in that moment, it will permanently change the way you see the animal sitting beside you. Most people, if asked, would say their dog picks up on tone of voice or body language. Maybe the slumped shoulders, the heavy steps, the tight jaw. And honestly, that explanation feels right. It sounds logical, even a little scientific. Dogs are observant creatures, we say. They notice things. Of course, they're reading your posture. That's the reasonable explanation, the one most of us carry quietly. And it's not entirely wrong, but it's also not the whole story. Not even close, because here's where it gets interesting. Researchers studying canine emotional perception have found something that challenges the comfortable version of this story. Dogs respond to your emotional state before your behavior visibly changes, before your face shifts, before your posture drops, before you've done anything a camera could capture. Studies measuring dogs' responses to pre-behavioral stress signals, the kind that precede any visible physical reaction, suggest they're not watching for cues. They're detecting something much more fundamental, something that isn't performed or visible at all. Your dog isn't reacting to your sadness. They're perceiving it at a level you haven't even expressed yet. That distinction matters more than it might seem. To understand why your dog is wired this way, it helps to look at how deeply the bond between you actually runs, neurologically and psychologically. Research from the field of canine cognition, including landmark work by Dr. Yosef Topal and his colleagues studying dog-human relational behavior, has demonstrated that dogs form genuine, secure attachment bonds with their owners, not metaphorical bonds, structural ones, comparable in neurological architecture to the bond between a human infant and its primary caregiver. What that means, practically speaking, is that your dog is not simply fond of you. They are neurologically organized around you. Their nervous system is constantly attuned to your emotional state as a primary survival signal, a kind of biological radar that never fully switches off. When you are stable and calm, they feel safe. When something shifts inside you, that signal travels directly into how they feel, how they move, what they do. Your mood isn't just noticed by your dog. It functions as information they are biologically driven to process. Sit with that for a moment. Because what it means emotionally is something quietly profound. All that watching, all that attentiveness, all those moments where your dog follows you from room to room when you're having a hard day, that isn't anxiety and it isn't trained behavior. It's love expressed as vigilance. When your dog positions themselves at your feet during a tense phone call, or rests their chin on your knee after a fight, they are performing something that researchers describe as emotional attunement, an active, effortful orientation toward your inner state. For your dog, your feelings are not background noise, they are the foreground, the most important information in the room, and they are responding to that information not because they've been taught to, but because something in them simply cannot look away. But the story goes even deeper than psychology, because the mechanism isn't only emotional, it's biological in the most literal sense. Dogs possess an olfactory system, approximately 10,000 times more sensitive than our own, with roughly 300 million scent receptors compared to the human average of 6 million. And research published in PLOS ONE, including a study by researchers at Queen's University Belfast, found that dogs can reliably detect cortisol, the primary human stress hormone, in breath and sweat samples with no visual cues present whatsoever. In those studies, dogs were exposed to odor samples collected from humans during moments of acute stress, and their behavior changed measurably in response to those scent profiles alone. No faces to read, no body language to interpret, just the invisible chemical signature of a stressed human being. And the dogs knew. Your dog doesn't wait to see you cry. They smell the stress hormone entering your sweat before the emotional wave is even broken into visible expression. That moment by the door, when they appeared before you'd said a word, they smelled it coming before you walked in. The sensitivity isn't random, it's ancient. Over roughly 15,000 years of coevolution with human beings, longer than any other domesticated animal, Dogs that were attuned to human emotional states survived and reproduced more successfully than those that weren't. Emotional sensitivity wasn't accidental. It was selected for generation after generation, shaped and refined specifically around us. Your dog's ability to read your inner world isn't a charming bonus. It is, in the deepest evolutionary sense, what they were built for. The dog at your feet is the product of 15,000 years of refinement, all of it oriented toward one thing: understanding you. And the implications of that don't stop at the moment of detection. Research on the relationship between chronic owner stress and canine cortisol levels, including studies tracking long-term owner and dog cortisol patterns over months, has found a consistent, significant correlation. Your emotional climate doesn't just affect your dog in a single moment. It shapes their baseline physiology over time. Your mood, in a very real biological sense, is your dog's environment. The quality of the air they breathe emotionally is determined largely by what you're carrying on the inside. That's not meant to create guilt. It's meant to illuminate the weight and the wonder of what's actually being exchanged between you every single day. This is a genuine relationship, running deeper than most people ever realize. There's one more thing worth knowing, and it's the kind of thing that once you hear it, you can't quite unhear it. While dogs are highly sensitive to negative emotional shifts, studies suggest they respond differently to authentic sadness versus suppressed or performed emotion. Dogs are not, it turns out, fooled by a brave face. When researchers tested canine responses to humans displaying genuine distress versus humans attempting to mask or suppress their emotional state, the dogs were not deceived by the performance. They continued to orient toward the suppressed emotion, tracking the real signal beneath the surface. What this means is quietly unsettling in the best way. Your dog may have a clearer, more honest read on your emotional truth than most of the people in your life ever will. You can put on a calm face for the world. You cannot put one on for your dog. There is something worth becoming more conscious of here. Not as a burden, but as an invitation. Your dog is always reading, always responding, always attuned. Acknowledging them in difficult moments, allowing that physical contact, their warmth pressed against you, that quiet convergence isn't just comfort. Research on the human-animal bond has shown that physical contact with a dog during stress triggers measurable reductions in cortisol in both owner and animal. You regulate each other. That is the relationship in its truest form. Your dog doesn't love you despite your moods. They love you through them. Every time they press against you in a hard moment, every time they appear without being called, every time they stay close when the world feels heavier than usual. It isn't random comfort seeking. It is an ancient act, something refined over 15,000 years, wired into their cells, expressed quietly and without condition in every moment they choose to stay near you. Go back to that scene at the beginning. The door, the keys, the silence. Your dog already there. Now you know what was actually happening in that moment. They weren't waiting to see what you'd do. They already knew, and they chose, as they always do, to be there anyway. That is not just a nice thing. That is one of the most remarkable things that happens in ordinary human life. Has your dog ever found you before you showed them anything was wrong? Drop it in the comments, because I genuinely want to know what that moment looked like for you. And if this made you wonder how deeply that biological sensitivity goes, stay close, because the next video explores something that will take this even further: whether dogs can detect physical illness or pain in their owners before any symptoms become visible. The research on that one is extraordinary, and it starts exactly where this one ended.